thinking, I bet she likes camping. I have a complicated relationship with the great outdoors. At age 7, during an Indian princess campout, I sleepwalked and climbed into a sleeping bag with someone else's father. During middle school science lab, we visited a local stream to collect macroinvertebrates. After school, I was picking a scab off of my scalp when the scab ran off my finger because it was a tick. I diagnosed myself with Lyme disease, and it was not the first time I revised my living will. At my private Christian high school in Dallas, the entire 8th grade was required to go on a week-long camping trip to bond our class before we went on to high school. We had heard legendary folklore about this trip, which was known by one ominous word: wilderness. Our leader was a Bible teacher / football coach named Coach Hoskins. He towered over us, had an unironic mustache, and sported a 10-gallon cowboy hat. Coach Hoskins once devoted an entire Bible class to informing us that A, the government invented AIDS, and that B, Hillary Clinton is a lesbian. It logically followed that he was the perfect authority to teach girls about their periods. One afternoon, while the boys practiced setting up their tents on the football field, the girls were sequestered to the gym, where Coach Hoskins admonished us. Every day, we will go on hikes of up to 10 miles. There will not be any lavatories. If you get your menstrual cycle, you'll need to pull your counselor aside and ask for a Ziploc. Your counselor will dispose of the bag properly so that the bears do not smell your blood. So the bears don't smell our blood? When he didn't crack a smile to indicate that he was joking, I assumed a midnight mauling was the only possible outcome. Coach Hoskins also informed us that we could not shave our legs for a week. As I watched my female classmates recoil in horror, I thought, wait, people shave their legs more than once a week? Looking like a butch schoolgirl, I broke in my REI hiking boots by wearing them with my plaid uniform. When D-Day arrived, my mother looked into my eyes and said, "You can do anything for 7 days." Before the 400-mile drive, I got my period. It was going to be a long effing week. When we arrived in Jasper, Arkansas, we were forced to hike with our 60-pound packs the last 4 miles into the campsite. As I breathed in the fresh mountain air and surveyed the tall trees and running creeks, I thought, people do this for fun? Along with our packs, there were 4 girls crammed into a 6-foot tent. We hastily erected our tent on an uneven surface with gaping holes. "It looks so good," we exclaimed, high-fiving each other. After a propane-infused meal of lukewarm spaghetti and powdered tang, we settled in for our first night against the backdrop of a truly epic thunderstorm. The 4 of us kept talking past lights out, aka 7 p.m. when you have no electricity. When Coach Hoskins came to reprimand us for our noise, we quickly turned our gossip into a group recitation of the Lord's Prayer. Because, it would be totally ridiculous for a Bible teacher to punish us for that. In a haze, I fell asleep. When I awoke, I pressed the Indiglo button on my watch to discover it was only midnight. our tent had flooded. Cold, dirty, hungry, exhausted, I silently cried in my wet sleeping bag, missing my family. Rise and shine! It's another beautiful day in the Ozarks. At 6 a.m., we were given exactly 6 minutes to meet Coach Hoskins in the middle of the campsite. 6 minutes, 60 girls, 1 compost toilet. That math is total bullshit. We hiked 8 miles that day. When I thought I couldn't take 1 step further, I heard Coach Hoskins yell, "Almost halfway!" When I awoke on the second day, I discovered blood blisters 3 inches wide across the balls of my feet. I hobbled over to the nurse's tent where she cut them open, drained the pus, and applied a Band-Aid. It could have been worse, though. I watched my tent mates walk of shame to the tick removal tent to have an arachnid plucked from her bikini line. As an afternoon treat, we were given the option to explore a cave known as the birth canal. As someone who instantly swells with the thought of getting stuck in too tight of a shirt, it is incomprehensible to me that someone would voluntarily elect to climb through a cave this narrow. So I took a nap. We reached the glorious summit of a steep mountain on Friday's hike. While I ate my PB&J, Coach Hoskins preached, "Marvel at God's creation. Lean on him during times of trepidation." In a grand reveal fitting for an episode of The Bachelor, Coach Hoskins finished by saying, "There's only one way to get back down to our campsite, rappelling off the side of this cliff." I looked over the edge, and my stomach dropped. I wasn't scared. I was pissed. Despite being a straight-A student and class president, I have always been opposed to the notion that I should blindly obey just because somebody told me to. I marched over to Coach Hoskins and said, "Rappelling down the side of this cliff has nothing to do with leadership or trust in the Lord, so I will not be participating in this activity today." After a fierce negotiation in front of my fellow constituents, I was brutally rebuffed. "This is not optional, Melissa." Stewing in the background, I watched as one by one, my fellow classmates bounded merrily into oblivion, yelling, "Belay! Belay on!" Every person in the world, no matter how cool they are, looks like a total wiener in rappelling gear. Dressed in my stupid helmet and stupid gloves with dinky little ropes harnessing me at the crotch, I indignantly backed up to the side of the cliff. "You can do it, Melissa, you've got this! Trust in the Lord!" Patronizing classmates yelled to me from below. Giving Coach Hoskins my signature bitch face, I yelled back in retaliation, "I know I can do it! I don't want to do it!" As my parting words, I delivered an admonition that would be a fitting inscription for my tombstone. "If you take a photo of me, I will cut you." And then I leaned back. Within a few minutes, my feet were safely planted on the ground as my tent mates congratulated me on my triumph. I looked up at the peak and then back down at the ground. You can imagine the euphoria that washed over me as I weighed the gravity of my accomplishment, right? Wrong! I was pissed that because I was a kid, my opinion didn't matter. Maybe some people need to put themselves in scary situations in order to learn more about themselves. I am not one of those people. Wilderness didn't teach me anything about myself that I didn't already know. I know I can do anything that I put my mind to. Now, whether I want to do it or not, well, I would like for that to be my choice. I owe this self-assuredness to my parents, who never chastised my innate bossiness. To the contrary, they emboldened me to be the boss. When I reflect on wilderness, I am grateful to be a grown woman who makes the choices that I want to make, because y'all, it is incredibly liberating to say no to shit you hate.